Ada orang di situ yang terlalu itu udah ikut ini kalau ikut siapa yang pegang sedih kita mau cetak ibu menggunakan mikrofon kita mau cetak lagi sama kayak outsourcing.
We are ready to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
All good?
Yeah, all
Sure.
Sorry.
Are you ready? Fine. Ini aja langsung bisa juga. Ini juga bisa nih. Tapi C1 itu ini, C2 ini. Jadi langsung ini udah langsung colok ke kepala saya. Sambil laptop kan udah tapi seberapa banyak lu sering pakai lighting sekarang udah turun.
Siapa yang masuk mana? Best. Mereka bocor. Sana ini Pak. Besok. Ini mau pas polisian di Batam kan.
Iya, bukan itu maksudnya.
Oh, berkembang pemikiran selatan laut Indonesia, Australia, baru berkembang ya, belum ada di selatan laut.
Dari tahun 2000. Siapa Jepang?
Kan lu lihat 3 kali kan ini.
Beneran.
We're all good? Well, welcome everyone. Just over a month ago, the President of Indonesia and the Prime Minister of Australia signed the Jakarta Treaty. And my visit here today is about building on the signing of that treaty and giving momentum in terms of the defence relationship between our two countries. Last night I was able to have a meeting with and dinner with President Prabowo Subianto, Foreign Minister Sugiono, and of course my counterpart, Defence Minister Shafri Shamsuddin. And I'm very grateful to all three for the hospitality that they provided me and the time that they have given in what is a really important relationship. Today, having signed the Defence Cooperation Agreement back in 2024 and now having signed the Jakarta Treaty, we are at a high watermark in terms of the closeness of the relationship between Australia and Indonesia. It is characterised by the deepest of friendships at the highest of levels between our Prime Minister and the President. And my relationships, the relationships of our Foreign Minister Penny Wong, there really is a sense today that we have a shared mission with our counterparts in Indonesia in building the bilateral relationship. But I think what is different today, perhaps to any other moment in the history of our bilateral relationship, is that there is a very clear understanding about the strategic value which each of us brings to the other. For Australia, we understand that our national security lies in the collective security of the ASEAN region, of Southeast Asia, and of course, Indonesia is at the heart of that. And for Indonesia, Australia provides Indonesia with strategic depth. And because both of us understand how our joint national interests can be advanced through this relationship, there is a deep sense of purpose in terms of taking this moment where the personal relationships are so close to advance the national interests and the bilateral relationship of both of our countries. And that shared sense of purpose and mission was very much evident today in the meeting that I had with Pak Shafri, but also in the conversations that we had last night, including, of course, with President Prabowo. Specifically, when we look at the Jakarta Treaty, so much of the substance of that lies in the defence space, and we were really seeking to advance that very early on in the life of the Jakarta Treaty through this visit today, and it was very important for us that we come here quickly. And so today we have moved forward a number of the specifics in relation to those defence announcements that were part of the announcement at the time of the Jakarta Treaty just over a month ago. There will be a representative of the TNI who will institutionally be embedded at a colonel level as Deputy Commander of 1 Brigade in Darwin, starting from the beginning of next year. Now that officer will of course be an officer of the TNI and of course will be subject to the command of the TNI, but on a day-to-day level, this officer will be involved in being Deputy Commander of the 1st Brigade, one of our 3 infantry brigades in Australia, the most northerly based brigade in Darwin, and also the brigade that has the most interaction with the marine rotation, the US Marine rotation, which occurs in Darwin. This is a really significant step forward in terms of the institutional relationship between our 2 defence forces, but this is in the highest level way an embedded position which adds to the opportunities that those in the TNI have to be involved in the workings of the Australian Defence Force. Later this year, we will be sending an Army survey team to Moritai Island to scope out how we can do more infrastructure works there on what is a really important training facility for the TNI, but we very much hope has the opportunity for Australians to be able to train there in the future as well. And this was a significant initiative that was announced back at the signing of the Jakarta Treaty. We are hopeful that in being able to have the Army survey team there later this year, we will be in a position to commence works at the end of this year or the beginning of next. And the Junior Leaders Forum that is going to take place in October of this year will now be doubled in duration. And in addition to having a component in Australia, which it's always had, we'll now have a component in Indonesia. And what this will do is afford an opportunity for junior officers at the captain and lieutenant level to be able to build relationships with their peers in Indonesia and Australia, relationships which they will carry through their life of service in their respective defence force. All of these are really significant initiatives which greatly advance the defence relationship. But they happen in the context of what is also a very busy year in terms of our defence exercises between Australia and Indonesia. Later this month, an Indonesian frigate will be participating in exercise Kakadu, which is one of our major maritime exercises. In July, we will have an Indonesian contingent from the Indonesian Air Force participating in exercise Pitch Black, which is our major air exercise that we do every second year. And in October, we will have our main bilateral exercise between Australia and Indonesia involving more than 2,000 personnel, exercise Chris Wimura, which will be happening here in Indonesia, and we are really very much looking forward to exercise Chris Wimura as very much part of the schedule of exercises this year. It speaks to the significance of the relationship. And finally, we will later in this year have a 2+2 between our respective foreign ministers and defence ministers, and in December we will have our second annual trilateral defence ministers meeting between the defence ministers of Australia, Indonesia and Papua New Guinea. That occurred for the first time last December and is a really important piece of architecture to build stability and confidence within our immediate region. In what is a obviously challenging world, it was really clear to both Pak Shafri and myself that we need to be making sure that we are taking steps forward in this bilateral relationship, that there is a historic opportunity to change the nature of this relationship to becoming even closer and even more trusted. But the significance of doing that right now, given everything that's going on in the world, is absolutely profound. And we feel very much the responsibility of this. We're very excited about what we're able to achieve. And this is something which is being felt right across governments at the highest level, And in that, I very much bring the regards of our Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and again, I very much thank President Prabowo for hosting me last night.
Deputy Prime Minister, just returning to maritime, is the intention for Australia and Indonesia to develop, is it a joint training facility there?
It's an Indonesian training facility, but there would be opportunities we see for Australia to engage in training there. But to be clear, this will be an Indonesian facility. And thinking about how we can use each other's training facilities has been very much part of the discussion that we've had between our two defence forces. Of course, we've got significant training ranges in Australia, and we've been encouraging greater use of those by the TNI, and we've seen that occur over the last couple of years. This is an opportunity, I think, for Australia going forward to see maritime developed in this way, but it will very much be a training facility for Indonesia.
So Australia,
Can you share a little bit how this maritime island is, the idea come to be? Because as you said that you have a very good personal relations with Minister Shafri, and if we remember, like 2 years ago, you have a call with him about the situation in Iraq with Russia. Is this idea come about later or before?
Well, it's independent of the call that we had last year, if I can be clear about that. Morotai is a fantastic asset for Indonesia. There is some old infrastructure which dates back to World War II on Morotai Island, but Pak Shafri, I think, really sees the opportunity of what Morotai could be as a training facility for Indonesia, and so he's been very keen to engage us on this issue, both in terms of what we might be able to do in terms of supporting the infrastructure that needs to be developed on Morotai, but also, having done that, what that range could represent as an opportunity for Australia to train in the future as well. We've had, I think I'm right, Keras Wilmer has had a footprint on Morotai in previous editions of it. So it is a facility that has been used in the past, but we think there's so much potential for it going forward, and really that's where this idea has come from. It's very much been Indonesian-led, but we see this as a great opportunity for us as well.
you mentioned that
Can you give any details on what the United States requested in terms of military resource deployment to the Middle East? And will Australia commit to more military resource deployment?
Start the question again.
Sorry. Can you give any details on what the United States requested in terms of military deployment, resource deployment in the Middle East?
Look, I've spoken about this in Australia. I mean, we've made our announcements earlier this week about the deployment of an E7 to the Gulf. That is very much at the request of the United Arab Emirates, and it is there to provide for contribution to the defence of the countries of the Gulf, including the UAE. We've had requests from a number of countries in respect of that, including the United States, but our deployment of the E7 is very much in response to the specific requests that we received by the UAE.
Has the wedge tail arrived, and when are you hoping that's operational?
Look, I'm not going to add to what I said earlier in the week about that. I think for operational reasons, we will probably be coy about going into a running commentary about the progress of the E7. We want to have it up and running as quickly as we can. Obviously, it's operating in a difficult part of the world, which is why it's there, and so we won't be going into details about it beyond what I've said.
Are we considering any other assistance to the Gulf nations?
Look, we are focused on the announcements that we've made so far, which is the E7. We'll be supplying the UAE with a number of advanced medium-range air-to-air missiles, which we also announced a couple of days ago, and that's very much our focus.
Can you explain to us how you will guarantee the Iranian soccer player who stayed and granted asylum in Australia? How you will guarantee their safety there?
In Australia?
Yeah, in Australia.
Well, so 6 members of that party have taken up the opportunity of staying in Australia on a humanitarian visa. We are very pleased to have been able to make that offer, and those 6 people are very welcome in Australia, and we see them building their lives in Australia. It's been a sensitive issue that we've needed to manage very carefully over the course of the period where the team and the associated party were in Australia. You know, from here, those 6 people have stayed, and they will be given all the assistance that people on humanitarian visas in Australia are given.
Just a little bit quick updates about the Mogami class frigate, and there's an intention of concluding a commercial contract with Mitsubishi Heavy Industries in 2026. I just want to know how's the update on that.
Well, that's all progressing very well. We have said that in terms of the commercial contracts that we're hoping to conclude them within the first few months of this year, and we're on track to being able to do that. You know, more broadly, as we look forward to the construction of those vessels, the first 3 in Japan, that all is on track. I mean, we are very excited about the acquisition of the Mogami class vessel as our new general purpose frigate. Our intention always was to have this come into service very quickly, with the first being delivered to Australia before the end of this decade in 2029. That is all very much still on track.
So there is a concern about the race of the arms and race of between the countries in Southeast Asia. What's Australia's positions in the keep of ASEAN centrality?
Firstly, we are utterly committed to ASEAN centrality. ASEAN centrality is at the heart of Australia's national interests. And I say that because through our Defence Strategic Review, our National Defence Strategy, which we announced in 2024, and that will be updated in the next month or so with the release of the National Defence Strategy 2026, what is really clear is that Australia's national security lies in the collective security of the Northeast Indian Ocean, of the Pacific, but very much of Southeast Asia. You know, like the geography of our national security is right here. And it's why I said earlier that I think one of the really significant steps that's been taken forward in terms of the bilateral relationship between Australia and Indonesia is our shared understanding of our strategic value to each other. And from an Australian point of view, ASEAN centrality, the collective security of Southeast Asia, is fundamentally important to Australia's national security, and Indonesia is clearly at the heart of that. So we are deeply invested in ASEAN. We are deeply invested in the notion of ASEAN centrality. In terms of our own military build-up, but for that matter, the military build-up of other countries, we understand that countries have a national interest in respect of this. What matters is that there is a constant sense of strategic reassurance which is being provided by countries in the region to each other, to our neighbours. That is to say that we give an explanation every time we engage in a new capability, every time we engage in increasing our defence capacity, and that's what we do. And when you look at the Jakarta Treaty, you know, at its heart is about talking to each other about the steps that we are taking in terms of our national security so that there is a clear understanding. And we're very much doing that with Indonesia. We're doing that across the board, and at the heart of, you know, how to manage the way in which countries are building up their militaries, which is something we understand. At the heart of that is very clear communication and strategic reassurance.
Deputy Prime Minister, sorry to circle you back to Maritime, but you also mentioned those trilateral talks with Papua New Guinea as well.
Yes.
Is this potentially a facility that you would also anticipate Pacific partners to engage with as well?
Well, look, that's a matter for Indonesia. So I don't. This is, as I say, is going to be an Indonesian asset. So it's really a matter for Indonesia to determine the opportunities for its use. I can only say that we see it as a really important asset that can be developed. We very much can see Indonesia's vision, and we want to help support it, and that is a key initiative that we are announcing today. In terms of the trilateral between Australia, Indonesia and Papua New Guinea, it is a major step forward. It's a really important piece of architecture. Building a sense of confidence and security and confidence in the shared security of our three countries plays a really important role in advancing peace and stability within our region, within our immediate region. And it was a really successful meeting that we had last December. We are very much looking forward to the meeting that we'll have at the end of this year. And in the bilateral discussions that I've had, not just with Park Shafri, but also with my counterpart, Minister Billy Joseph in Papua New Guinea, there is a shared sense of commitment to this architecture.
Just lastly, just very quickly, would you anticipate a permanent or semi-permanent Australian presence in Morotai?
This is we're not talking about that, and this is an Indonesian asset. But what we're talking about is helping in the development of a really important training range for Indonesia, and a training range which I'm sure at times we will be able to operate from, and in fact have in the past with previous iterations of Keraswilmara.
About the Morotai facility, how do you see it could threat or it could pose tension with China, for instance, like Indonesia and Australia training on Indonesian soil? How do you see the possibility of tension?
Look, I don't think it is about that. This is not about any other third country. This is about building the shared capability between Indonesia and Australia and building our defence relationship. And I think it's important in answering that question to give a sense of the character of the conversations that I've had in the last 24 hours with both President Prabowo but also Park Shafri, and indeed not just this trip but the whole way in all the conversations we've had in Indonesia. We are really focused on our bilateral relationship on its own terms. We are neighbours, but we have so much strategic value to each other. And we really want to take the opportunity of that. So what you will see in all that we have announced is really not about any other country. It is about Indonesia, and it's about Australia, and it's about our relationship and how, working together much more closely, we provide much more for the collective safety and security of both of our countries.
Park Shafri also said that he will share that Morotai training facilities with Philippines and Japan, all
right.
Our US allies.
Great.
And looking at how Indonesia trajectory of joining GOP, sending ISR, Jakarta Treaty with Australia, how do you feel Australia as the close neighbours of Indonesia, looking this country as more tilted to the western?
It's really the answer I've just given. I mean, we see Indonesia in its own terms. We actually have a shared destiny. The geography determines that. But what's really exciting at the moment is that you've got a sense of commitment at the very highest level between the most senior leaders of both of our countries to manifest that destiny, to actually bring it into a reality. And that's going to be so good for both of our countries. We're not thinking beyond that. Like, we're really thinking about the importance of our bilateral relationship, except perhaps to say, we both observe that we are living in a pretty challenging world. And that in a challenging world, being able to make sure that our relationship is as close as it can possibly be, and that we are taking steps to advance it, is profoundly important for both of our peoples. Great. Thank you.
Hi, how are you? Pleasure having you. 6 months. Yes. I was actually living out here. I took a bit of time to do this. Yes, but I was helping out now. A little bit, yeah. And before that was Papua New Guinea. So, yeah. And yourself?